Climate change is going to impact the entire world, but some are at greater risk as compared to others. The 56th session of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change concluded in Germany on Thursday. The major takeaway seems to be this. Developing countries voice disappointment. They feel that there is a lack of momentum in helping the vulnerable countries cope with the impact of global warming. Representatives of nearly 200 countries participated. The aim was to discuss the climate goals set by the countries 6 months ago during the United Nations COP26 summit in Glasgow. Remember, countries around the world had recognized that climate change needs urgent action, but the meeting did not show any tangible progress. Let's look at some of the major talking points. Finance. It is an ongoing sore point. Developing countries were supposed to get $100 billion a year from the year 2020 to adapt to global warming, and that promise has not been fulfilled. Developing nations are considered to be the least responsible for climate change, but they are the ones to be the worst impacted. These nations want what they call a specific funding facility, but the wealthy countries have rejected this demand, particularly the European Union and the United States. They say that funding can be channeled through a network of existing humanitarian development and climate organizations. At the moment, a number of other global events are making headlines. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, the spiraling food, energy and economic crises. As the climate talks conclude, the same issue comes to the forefront: how cooperation and consensus is the need of the hour to find concrete solutions. For more on this, Dr. Paul Dorfman with me from Paris. He is an associate fellow at the Science Policy Research Unit at the University of Sussex. Thanks very much for being here with us. What is your assessment of the way in which the developing countries have been left somewhat disappointed at this latest round of talks? They are considered to be the least responsible for climate change, but they are also the ones to be the worst impacted.
There seems no question but this is an appalling state of affairs. The reality is we have one world. There is no planet B. So the stall in the discussions is truly problematic. Well, okay. I mean, we know we're in trouble. We know that we all share the climate problem. Happily, help is on the way. 256 gigawatts of non-hydro renewables were added to the world's power grids in 2020, with nuclear adding only 0.4 gigawatts. Last year, solar and wind made up 3/4 of all new generation. And with other renewables, the total figure is 84%. So in that sense, there is scope for hope. There is no one left to dispute the fact that the heavy lifting of the net zero transition, both in the OECD countries and in the developing world, will be done by renewable energy. And that alone is very good news.
What should and can developed countries do, according to you? What more can they do?
The developing countries must stand by their commitments.
The developed countries, I'm asking about the developed countries. What more, according to you, should they do? Yes.
I'm terribly sorry, I got that wrong. The developed countries should and must stand by their commitments. The idea that developing nations who have done least to add to this problem must pay the greatest burden is, frankly, amoral. But as discussed, happily, solar, wind, the renewable evolution is here. And in terms of investment, the International Energy Agency, world-renowned, states quite clearly that by 2050, 91% of energy, not electricity, but energy, may well be produced by renewables. So as discussed, there is hope. And there are also sort of clear implications here. The majority of the wars that we've been fighting, not simply in the last decade, but more recently in Ukraine, have largely been about energy. Now, it's very difficult to fight wars about sun, very difficult to fight wars about wind. So that has profound political, strategic implications.
Right. Dr. Paul Dorfman, thanks very much for being here with us on the broadcast and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.